So, yeah, all right. So good. Thank you for that, Zach, and thanks, Shyam and Aditi, for getting him in. I really get excited when I'm talking to students, especially, because lots of things have changed. I was just looking at this, the classroom environment and the technology that you have. Fabulous. And it used to be quite different in my days. Not very long back. Not that old, but still, it's quite different. So you guys are really on top of the technology chain now. All right. So we're going to talk about entrepreneurship, right? Now, how many of you want to become an entrepreneur? And how many of you want to become something else? So can I see a show of hands of people who want to become an entrepreneur? Yeah? So you don't want to become an entrepreneur. I think you don't want to become an entrepreneur.
I'm not sure yet.
All right, and a couple of you don't want to become. All right, and what do you want to become? What do you want to become? What's the opposite of entrepreneur?
Want to provide value to existing organizations.
You want to provide value to existing organizations. As you could provide in many ways, but you want to provide it as being part of the organization, being employed by them, and then you want to provide value. All right, what about you? You don't want to become an entrepreneur, so?
Well, I'm not sure, but yeah, I guess it's kind of like the same reason.
Mhm.
Like, I guess working sort of.
Is it because entrepreneur seems to be a lot of hard work? Risky, or is that what it is in general perception?
Well, I don't know, like, I study like engineering, so I guess. Like,
You can't be an entrepreneur.
Or you can, but it would be like, you could work for like a big firm at the same time instead of having your own.
Easy life, simple life, right? Less complicated life, that's what you're thinking.
I guess.
All right, so can somebody tell me what entrepreneur means really? Entrepreneurship or entrepreneur really mean? What does it mean? What's your perception of entrepreneur? When somebody says entrepreneur, what does it, what images does it evoke for you?
Working for yourself.
Working for yourself. Okay, so that's good. Yeah, working for yourself. You're always working for yourself, right? If you look at it,
You have the flexibility, I guess,
you have the flexibility.
of not being tied down by certain constraints when you work with an employer.
Right. So can I say you've got more freedom?
Yeah.
Right? Is that what you're saying? Freedom. You've got more freedom. You've got more choices, right? All right. What else? What would you say when you say entrepreneur? What does it mean? No? Nobody? What does an entrepreneur mean? Shyam, what does it bring to you?
I guess it's someone who kind of goes freelance, so he starts his own business up. Someone who's, I guess, the connotation that comes from an entrepreneur is someone who's ambitious as well.
Mm-hmm.
So wants to get out there on his own.
All right.
Starting from scratch.
Yeah.
Starting from scratch. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Just connotation.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. So would you say a plumber or a carpenter or an electrician who starts his own trade
Yeah.
business, is he an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, right? Yeah. So anybody who does anything on his own is an entrepreneur. But look, the key is, what I'm going to stress on today is not just being an entrepreneur, but anybody can become an entrepreneur, right? You can quit your job and do whatever. At home, teach students. If you're doing engineering, you can get 5 students to your house and start teaching them, and tutoring, you become an entrepreneur. But the key here is becoming a successful entrepreneur. So you want to become an entrepreneur, but becoming a successful entrepreneur. And there's a difference between the two. Anybody can become an entrepreneur for some time and may not last the distance. So what we're looking at here is, what are the traits that you need, what are the tools that you require to become successful in your business, creating whatever you want to create. So let's look at the traditional definition of what entrepreneurship means. Okay, this is the book definition, all right? So I'm starting off with the book definition. It actually means building capital, right? Building capital through the use of risk and initiative. You get that? Building capital not necessarily wealth as in money, but any kind of capital, but mostly we relate it to wealth, dollars, right? Through the use of risk and initiative. What else? Undertakes innovation and transforms these innovations into economic goods. Undertakes innovations and transforms these innovations into economic goods and services and products. Starts a business undertaking, right? That was said by Shyam, starts a business undertaking. All right, so this is the traditional definition of an entrepreneur. Somebody who starts a business, somebody who is risk-taking and has initiative, and somebody who uses innovation to translate that into economic goods. Now, what I'd like to do is to cover some of the things that go to making you a very successful entrepreneur and lasting the distance. Because you can't be an entrepreneur for 6 months and quit. You're not an entrepreneur. You work for 6 months, but are you really an entrepreneur? No. And you know the saying, 90% of businesses, I think it is 70% of businesses in the first 3 years and 90% of business in the first 5 years close down, that start. Because they don't have the traits, they don't have the tools that is required to be successful entrepreneur, right? So let's look at what is successful entrepreneurship. The first thing you need to do is to create value. At the end of the day, whatever we offer to the marketplace, to others, is value. We've got to be able to create value. So we've got to start thinking, what is it that we can do to create value using whatever knowledge and skills that we have. So if you're an engineer, if you are a doctor, if you're a business person, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Using the knowledge that you have gained over the past so many years, how do you convert that into value, which somebody is willing to pay for? Right? That's the whole idea. If you've got value that you can offer to the marketplace, to people out there, they'll be willing to pay for it. That's a very, very important trait. So you've got to create value. Sometimes we think of products, but that doesn't work. Why? Because there's no value attached to it. People don't perceive value to that particular product or service that you offer. So you might go and say, look, I'm going to offer this, but you see that nobody's going to come to you. Why? Because they don't perceive that there is value. So creating value is of paramount importance, right? Now, please stop me at any point of time and ask questions if you have any doubts, right? It's a very informal discussion. So it's just brainstorming. Any point of time, just stop me. If you don't get something, let me know. The second one is a leadership mindset. Now, what it really means is that you are going out on your own. A leader sets the path, right? He doesn't follow anybody. So what you're really doing here is setting the path for yourself, choosing the path, choosing the road that you want to take, not letting anybody else define that to you. An entrepreneur chooses his own path. He doesn't follow the well-trodden paths, right? So that mentality of being able to set out on a path that's not been traveled before is very important to being a successful entrepreneur, right? So leadership mentality. We won't get into leadership because that becomes very complicated, but at the end of the day, it means that you've got to have the guts, the courage, the confidence to be able to set out on a path that nobody else has traveled before, right? Unknown path. So that is very, very important. The other trait of a successful entrepreneur is to follow your passions. And I always talk about this because I'm a big believer in this. The thing about business is that you can get burnt out very fast, right? You can work for 30 years as an employee because the pressure on you is not as much as it is on a business person because you're carrying a lot of load. So if it seems like hard work, to a lot of people it seems like hard work. That's why people say, I don't want to own a business, I don't want to run a business, I don't want to have employees, I don't want to do all this because it's all a lot of headache, right? Even though I get the freedom and the choice, but still I don't want to. I'd rather comfortably work for a big organization, big multinational company, and have my paycheck coming in every fixed day, every month. That's easier. That's more comfortable. So the thing about business is, if you're getting into business, you're starting a business, make sure that it is something in a line that you're passionate about. Why? Because you will come across a lot of obstacles, a lot of hurdles on a daily basis. And if you're not passionate about what you're doing, it's very easy to quit. Very easy to quit. Very easy to quit. You know, so make sure whatever you're doing, it might seem like an attractive idea. Somebody might have done a market research and said, oh, there's huge market potential for this, and you can make millions of dollars. But if you're not passionate about it, sorry, what's
No,
it?
no, no,
Yeah.
no.
If you're not passionate about it, you will not last the distance. You know, it's like a marathon. You've got to last the distance, you've got to complete the race, and that's the only way. Because the thing about business is this, business might make loss for 3 years. And then the 4th year will be the boom year. That's where you really make all your money. But if you can't last the 3 years, then you've lost. Because you're not, now after 3 years of hard work and putting in, doing all the groundwork, the 4th year is when you reap all your rewards. You know, it's just like the farmer. He sows his seeds, waters, does everything, and he waits for the harvest. That's when he reaps his rewards. But before that, if he sees that he wants the plant to grow very fast and he wants his harvest immediately, he will not get it. So you've got to have that ability to withstand the pressures. So it's very important that you are passionate about what you do. Remember that always. It's not just in business, it's also whether you're working for a company. But the problem with companies is why, as compared to business people, a larger percentage of employees are dissatisfied with life. Is because they don't have control over what they're doing. They don't have control over what they are doing. They don't have a choice. Their boss tells them to do something, they have to do it, whether they like it or not, whether they're passionate about it or not. Whereas in a business, you can choose your own path. But it takes a lot more courage. It's much tougher. But then the satisfaction is greater. Whereas when you're working, you're not satisfied. You don't want to get up in the morning and go to work for many reasons. There are very small percentage. It was done, there was a research done in the US about 8 or 10 years back. And they discovered, they did a survey amongst 5,000 employees across varied industries. And they found that over 70% of them didn't like what they did. 70% of employees didn't like what they did. But they had to do it because of, you know, economic constraints or whatever. But they didn't like it. They didn't want to get up in the morning and go to work. So that's very important, right? You've got to be a dreamer and a visionary. Because a business, like I said, is where you are putting the seeds in. And you've got to water it. You've got to put fertilizer in. It takes time. So you've got to be able to see the end. So you begin with the end in mind. And that's why I said, you start a business, you don't see the results immediately. You may not see it in 6 months. You may not see it in a year. You may not see it in 3 years. But you've got to have the patience, you've got to have the vision to know that, yep, I'm on the right path, I'm going to stick by this path no matter what happens. Because that's, you don't know when you're going to see those rewards. That's why it's important that you've got to be a dreamer and a visionary. So it's a link to passion. If you're passionate about something, you see what's happening, you start reading about that, you are in that industry, you're aware of the trends, and you kind of can see where it's going. You know? So it's important that your passion is aligned, and therefore you're able to see the future. And if you see the example of any big entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs, you'll find this. They've been through tough patches, and you'll wonder, how did they survive? How did they go through that? Real bad patches when they were out on the street. But they turn around and make it. Why? Because they knew that they were following the right path. Right, this is a big one. How do you perceive the obstacles, the hurdles that come up? You see, when you're going, the road is not smooth, right? In life, the road's not smooth. Am I right? Roads, ups and downs, and you've got hurdles and you've blocks and all that. How do you perceive them? How do you see them? How do you view them? When they come up, what do you see them as? Oh, is that it's a problem? Oh my God, it's a problem. Right? How will I tackle this? Is that the mindset? Or are you saying, wow, that's an opportunity for me to grow. That's a challenge. That's exciting. That's fun. That's mysterious. Let me see how I'm going to do it. How do you see it? If you are of the nature that, oh, that's a problem, man, I'm not going to do that. That's difficult. That's tough, you know. I just can't do it. It's easy to quit. But if you're of the nature, yep, bring it on. The problem's coming. I'm going to try it out. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go for it. Yeah, I'm going to see it as an opportunity to grow. Because every challenge, every problem is actually converted into a challenge. Every challenge is an opportunity to grow. That's how you learn, right? Because if there are no challenges, why would you learn? Why would you be doing your course now if there were no challenges? There are challenges, that's why you're doing it. If there were no challenges, everything is hunky-dory, you've got all the resources that you need, you will not do this course. You will not study. Think about it. Imagine if you had, a few $1 million, a big house, and everything that you wanted, you had. Would you still come here and do this course? No. Because it's a challenge, because you've got to make that happen. And therefore, it's important that you view all challenges as opportunities. Yeah? Once you start looking at challenges as opportunities, there's nothing that can stop you going wherever you want. It's just a mindset. It's just a mindset of how you view it. So from now on, think about this. Just keep that in your mind and say, okay, something comes up. Whatever it is, exam, let's say you don't pass the exam. You could go down and say, oh, this is a big problem, what do I do? You look at it as a challenge. You look at it as an opportunity to grow, learn more, research more. It's an opportunity. There's some reason why that's happened. Look at it positively. So that's very important. Abundance, creative and competitive. Now you see, this is a little tricky to understand. I'll try and explain this. The thing is, we think competitiveness is a great skill, right? I'm very competitive, whereas you're not very competitive. So therefore I'm going to go far. But you know what? Competitiveness is actually counterproductive, really. What is really productive, it is creativity. Because when you're competing, you are just following the same path that the other person is doing. You're trying to beat him at his game. Why not create your own game? Get what I'm saying? Instead of competing, that's where innovation comes in. Come up with new ideas. How is Apple the most valuable company in the world today? How did they do it? They didn't follow any beaten paths. They just came out with new products and new ideas and something that people never thought about before. They said it's impossible. It's absolutely, there was no idea, Everything that they do, now people are copying, but they just came out with it. So think of that instead of being competitive. You're responsible for your neighbor, right? Give her a poke in the ribs. That's okay. Don't worry. I'm just kidding. You want to sleep? Sleep. No worry. That's okay. She was dozing off. That's fine. Tough day in school, college, and Yeah. So competitiveness versus creativity. Are you getting this? It's a little different. Think about it. Competitiveness, you are playing the game by the rules of the other person. The moment you change your mindset to being creative, you're looking at new ways of doing it, new ways of overcoming a challenge, new ways of creating value and wealth for yourself, right? So creativity is always more powerful than competitiveness, always. The more creative you are, we are all creative beings. The more creative you are, the more you're a leader, because you're creating a new path which somebody else has to follow then. And you've got that lead before somebody else can copy you. It took, I don't know how many years for Samsung or for Nokia or for somebody else to copy Apple, right? iPhone or whatever category. But till then, even now, they come up with innovations, and the moment they stop innovations, they're finished. That's all creativity, not competition. They didn't try to compete with Dell or HP or I don't know, whoever other company to make the same kind of a laptop and then market it. No. And all great successful entrepreneurs have this capability to create out of nothing something new. All right, inspired goals. I think I spoke about this last time when I was here. But the thing is, again, you see, the thing about life is that it's not a sprint. It's not a 100-meter race. You can't just dash and then finish the race in 10 seconds or 12 seconds or whatever you do. It is a marathon. So therefore, you've got to build up stamina. And that stamina has to come from inside. It's not something that somebody can push from outside. And that's why it's important that your goals that you set has to be inspired, coming from inside, so that you can last the distance. That is when the first year you don't make profits, the second year you don't make profits, third year you don't make profits, you still continue. Why? Because When you're passionate, second, the goals are inspired. So it's important that you have inspired goals if you are looking at becoming an entrepreneur. If you are looking at starting your own business, creating a new product, a new service, creating any kind of value in the marketplace. Remember that it has to be an inspired goal. You have to be a dreamer and a visionary to see 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, where do I see myself? You've got to set your goals 5, 10, 15, 20 years. That's the only way you can last the distance. Otherwise, 3 years time, your business will close. You'll be back to working as an employee, or 5 years, finished. Because that's how it is. It's up and down, it's up and down. It's a roller coaster. So you've got to be able to take the down with the up. Right? Any questions? All okay? All going good? All right. Dealing with failure. What kind of a person are you? How do you deal with failure? When something goes wrong, when something doesn't go your way, what do? Do you pull your hair out, scream and shout, and berate everybody around you? Or do you go into a corner and isolate yourself? Or do you go and take happy pills? I don't know. But the point is, how do you deal with failure? Because you're going to come across failure so many times that you lose count of it. No doubt about it. It doesn't matter how good you are, what kind of a person, how brilliant you are, how intelligent you are, how much marks you've scored. You're the top of the class. You'll come across failure. Remember that. It's inevitable. It's part of life. All of us come across failure. How do you deal with failure? That's very important. So when you start thinking of becoming an entrepreneur, setting up a business, these are the things that you actually have to write down and analyze it and say, do I have the mindset? Am I a visionary? Do I begin with the end in mind? Am I creative enough, or am I willing to be creative enough? And am I willing to deal with failure? I might have 3 months, 6 months with no income. How do I survive? Have I planned for it? How do I manage everything? So, your product might fail, your service might fail. So many things could go wrong. And Murphy's law is, if something can go wrong, it will go wrong. Right? So the key thing is, how do you deal with failure? It's very important that you look at that as a self-responsibility. Now these are all traits generally of any successful person. Look, it doesn't matter whether you're going to be an entrepreneur or not. But to be an entrepreneur is even more important. You might just get away with it if you're working for the government and you don't have this. Right? You might get away with it. I'm not saying things are changing now. Government is sending people out en masse. And if you're not one of these, then you'll be the first to be sent out. So remember that. It's not for granted. It used to be. If you're working for the government, and it doesn't matter whether you're innovative or you're creative, or it doesn't matter, you still get a salary and you continue. But that's changing, because the world is changing. But it's important that you take responsibility. Do you blame other people for things that happen to you? Or do you own up and say, look, do you have the victim mentality? Oh my God, it always happens to me. Why only me? Why only me? Why do I fail? Why do I get kicked out of the class? Why do I do this? Why don't I have friends? Why don't I? Everything. Why don't I? Why don't I? Victim mentality. And you talk about that to everybody. Instead, are you taking responsibility? This is something about me. Something that I'm either doing or I'm not doing that's causing this to happen. And if you're of the responsible type, self-responsibility, then you can go and become an entrepreneur. It'll help you to actually do, because that's one of the important traits. Obviously, time management, look, that's a given, right? We've all got a certain amount of time. How much? How much time do we have? 24 hours per day, right? 60 seconds per minute, 60 minutes per hour, and 24 hours per day. And maybe about 80, 85 years. Hopefully, we don't know. Maybe we just might walk out and story ends. We don't know. There's no guarantee. No, life has no guarantees, right? But the point is, whatever time you have, use it wisely. And we don't learn this. when I was your age, I was like, okay, but then you learn. Then you realize that, no, if only I had used my time more wisely, I would have learned much more. I would have, inculcated more skills, and I would have been a happier person much earlier than now. I'm a happy person now, but I would have been much earlier. But I had to go through a lot of pain and failure before I realized. I'm sure you'll go through. But the point is, time is precious. We know that. Time that's gone is gone. You can't bring it back. That's gone forever. And all of us have the same amount of time. Whether you're Bill Gates or you're Steve Jobs or you're Warren Buffett or you're Obama or I don't know, whoever, we all have the same amount of time. How do they manage? They seem to have more responsibilities than we have, right? You think so? Oh, I don't know, maybe you have more responsibility than Obama, I don't know, maybe. But how do they manage? Because they have the same amount of time. They still have to sleep 7 hours or 6 hours or 8 hours or whatever. They still have to brush their teeth and go to the toilet and have a shower and have their food and everything, just like we do. But they handle so much more in that time. They couldn't have done that without time management. So it's important that you have the skill. So when you get a chance, work on time management skills. Do some reading, do some research. Now look, the important thing is, I stress this every time. Your engineering, your medicine, your whatever subjects, architecture, or whatever you're doing, has got its place. It's important. But more important than this are the life skills. You know, because the subjects can only carry you so far. What will carry you after that is these life skills. So when you're starting a business, you might know your product inside out. You might be the top expert in that. Would that help you become a successful entrepreneur? Absolutely not. I mean, it could help you, but would that guarantee you? No. Because you've got to have these skills. If you're a poor time manager, but an excellent technical person, the best technical person in the world, your subject, you know, you're like the super specialist. Nobody can touch you. You'll not last in the business if you don't have these skills. So remember that. Life skills are more important than your subject skills. Right? Remember that. Some more points. Fear. Scared. We're scared, right? A lot of things. We've got fear. All of us as human beings are fearful. Fear is an innate phenomenon, right? And we need fear. Because if you're not scared and the redback spider comes, or you're one of your, whatever snakes come, poisonous snakes come, and you're not scared, you'll go catch it, it'll bite you, and you're finished and gone. So you've got to have fear. That's self-preservation. It helps you to stay alive. Fear is important. But how much does fear control you? Because again, during the course of your journey as an entrepreneur, you will have moments where you're uncertain, you're doubtful, you're fearful. Now the fear can paralyze you, can stop you from moving, not doing anything. And if you do let it do that, again the whole thing will collapse. It can happen. Everything is going good, it's all good. Smiling and everything's fine. But the moment something goes bad, you're paralyzed by fear. And if you're paralyzed by fear, you can't move. And then whoever is chasing you, hunting you, will come and kill you. So you've got to be able to manage fear. Not be fearful. We're all fearful. We can never let go of fear. Never let go of fear. But manage fear. Use the fear to your advantage. Don't let the fear use you. Right? That's very important. Risk. Ability to take risks. One of the key ingredients in becoming a successful entrepreneur is the ability to take risks. And the ability to take risks because of lack of fear, confidence in yourself, being a dreamer and a visionary, all those things add up to this. So the ability to take risks. You don't know what will happen if you do this. There's no certainty. It's an uncertain life. You should be comfortable with uncertainty. If you're not, don't go to becoming an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur's life is full of uncertainties. Every day, every moment, literally. But in a job, it's certain. Your job starts at so-and-so time, ends at so-and-so time, and you've got your work to do, you know where you're going to sit, and you know what you're going to do the day. Pretty much it's standard, right? Day in, day out. There's really not much risk. Job risk. But as an entrepreneur, it's risk. Now, is risk bad? Is risk good? No, it's neither good nor bad. It's risk. Right? Risk is neither bad, risk is neither good. Risk is risk. It's there. Whether you like it or not, risk is part of life. How do you deal with risk? That's the point. So risk is not good, risk is not bad. You've got to learn to deal with risk. You've got to learn to take risks. Only then can you go across that bridge of fear. Right? You heard about the guy who jumped from space, right? Felix or somebody. Took a big risk because they didn't know whether he'll survive or not. Because if you cross the sound barrier, they said that nobody knows what happens to your body if you cross the sound barrier. So, yeah. So you took a risk. Attitude. Yeah. You know, attitude, the right attitude, right? The right attitude means how do you look at things? Do you have a positive attitude? Do you have a negative attitude? It comes back to again looking at problems as challenges and challenges as opportunities for growth, right? Having the right attitude. Attitude is what gives you altitude, right? If you've got the right attitude, you'll go up, you'll go up, you'll go. If you have the wrong attitude, more than skills, attitude is more important. More than knowledge, attitude is more important. Remember that. Attitude is more important than knowledge. Attitude is more important than skills. You might have the best of skills, you might be the most intelligent person, but if you have the wrong attitude, you won't get very far. You know, the guy who wins Wimbledon is not necessarily the best tennis player. Or the guy who wins the marathon is not necessarily the best runner. It's the runner with the best attitude. So that's very important. Persistence. This is again a very important key. Persistence. You know, try, and again. You'll fail, you'll get up, you'll try. And you'll only do that again if you've got passion. If you're passionate about doing what you're doing. So when you start a business, when you become an entrepreneur, you look at that and say, I've got the passion for this, so even if I fall, I'll get up and do it again. Even if I fail, I'll get back and then start again. So you've got to be able to persist with it, because if you don't persist, you'll not last very long. Yeah? Any questions? All good? All clear? Nobody's got any questions. Strange. Say something, just for the sake of saying. No, that's okay.
I was just thinking about persistence for like exams, like short-term persistence. Yeah. Trying to get through the next few weeks.
Yeah. Persistence is an important quality. But if you're not passionate about the exams, it'll be very difficult to be persistent.
Yeah.
Or at least if you're not passionate about the subjects.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important to do the right subjects. If you get the wrong subjects, you won't have the passion for the subject, you won't be able to persist with it, and you'll fail, and you'll find it difficult to deal with failure. So choose the subjects that you're passionate about, that you're interested in, that is fun to you, that you enjoy learning and doing, and you'll become good at it, you'll persist. Yeah? Leverage. Now, this is again a very, very important thing. Look, the thing is this, as individuals, as me alone, or you alone, you can't do much. Right? You can only do so much. Because in this world, we can only do so much. We've only got 2 hands, 2 legs, 2 eyes, 2 ears, 1 nose, and so on. So there's only so much that we can do, and we only have 24 hours. So we've got to learn the art of leverage. And I'm sure you all studied physics, so you know what leverage means, right? Anybody knows? Or anybody doesn't know what leverage means? Small input, big output. That's what leverage means, right? You use the lever. So you put a little bit of pressure here, and you lift a big block of stone. Why? Because of using whatever principles of physics. That's leverage. So you put less input in, and you get more output. You heard that chain and pulley thing also, no? Which goes, now if you're engineering students, right? What's this? What are you doing in engineering? Has the engineering standards gone down? Alright, so anyway, so leverage means being able to use other people's time, other people's money, other people's skills, basically outside resources. So, if I wanted to do something, let's say I wanted to start a business and I wanted to do something, but if I were to do it, I'll do it, I'll be working 24 hours literally. And where will I get? But what if I hire her and get her to do one thing? If I hire her and get her to do one thing, I hire her and get her to do one thing. So it's all delegate. Then I can sit back and relax. So you've got to be able to leverage outside resources. That's important. The more you leverage, the better it is. Obama doesn't do all the work himself. Bill Gates doesn't do all the work himself. Otherwise, he'd be dead by now. Right? He's got thousands and thousands of employees who do a lot of the work for him. He's leveraging resources outside. The same way, you've got to be able to leverage people's time, people's money, people's skills, other people's skills. It's very important. So you've got to learn the art of leverage. How do you do that? Once you learn to do that, as an entrepreneur, primary importance. Very, very important that you do that. Okay, we're getting to the end of this. Integrity. Integrity is what? Being true to yourself, being true to others, right? Being authentic, being who you really are. Now, there's a saying, I don't want to say that, but anyway, the thing is that you've got to have integrity. Because otherwise, again, you won't last long. You might be able to fool some people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time, right? I've changed the wording a little bit, but that's what it really means. For some time, you might be able to survive by being non-integrity. But if you really want to have growth, consistent growth, people to be with you, people to support you, people to help you, then you've got to have integrity. You've got to be true to what you say, true to yourself, true to other people. Be authentic, be the real you, be who you really are. In the long run, that's the only thing that will serve you. Otherwise, you'll be found out. How long can you hide behind a facade that projects a different picture? So it's important that you have integrity. Very important for entrepreneurship. Discipline. And that's where discipline comes in, Aditi. You said, sometimes we've got to do things that we don't like. Sometimes we've got to do things that we don't like. Sometimes we've got to do things that we're not passionate about. It's not always 100% of the time that we can do things that we're passionate about. A lot of the times we have to do things that we're not passionate about in order to be able to get to the goal. So let's say, for example, one of our goals is to climb Mount Everest, right? We're so passionate about it, we want to become, climb Mount Everest. But then you've got to do a lot of things, a lot of steps to be able to do that, right? Now, some of the steps may be painful, maybe something that you don't like doing. But what keeps you going is that vision. And that is where discipline comes in. The discipline to stick to your chosen path, irrespective of whether you like it or not, for the short term. Because you pay now and you'll play later. Right? So you're going to now do the hard yards, you're going to do the work even though you don't like it, but that's taking you to a place where you're going to like it. So that's where discipline comes in. Discipline means the ability to do things that you don't like doing. Because for the things that you like doing, you don't need discipline, right? Do you need discipline to do something that you like doing? No, you'll do it anyway. Nobody should tell you, you don't need a discipline. You'll get up, you'll do it. Discipline comes in when you have to do something that you don't like doing. So you've got to tell yourself, that's where discipline comes in. So, yep.
How do you make yourself wake up early?
You've got to create a need for it. I know that I've spoken about the 6 needs. You've got to create a need for it. Pain, pleasure.
Yeah.
If you don't wake up, what's the impact?
I know, but like...
What's the pain?
I think about that and I still don't wake up.
But the pain has not become strong enough. So you've got to create a pain on one side of not waking up.
Yeah.
Then you've got to create a pleasure of something that you'll get if you wake up. So if I were to tell you, Shyam, I'll give you X amount of dollars every time you get up before 7 o'clock, you'll wake up. Because that's your pleasure, that's your reward. So give yourself some reward. So let's say every time you get up before whatever time, let's say 7 o'clock for example. So every time you get up before 7, you buy yourself an ice cream if you like ice creams, I don't know, whatever. But reward yourself. That's a good way. Just reward yourself. So you link that reward to the time and you get up. So something else.
Yeah.
If you've done 10 times before 7 o'clock, buy yourself whatever product that you like, video game, whatever you like, I don't know what you like, but whatever you like, Reward yourself.
Yeah.
So that's a way of keeping yourself motivated to do that. But that's discipline, really.
Yeah.
Being able to get up even if you want to. So the ability to be able to actually switch off that, not switch off the alarm or switch it off, but get up.
Yeah.
And everything around you is telling you, no, you can sleep, you can
Yeah.
sleep. It's discipline. Yeah. And you've got to practice that. It's not easy. You've got to practice it.
So I guess that just relates to, like you said, you've got to have something you want to wake up for.
You've got to have. See,
Like
we
a-
all do things for a reason. We don't do things simply. As human beings, every time we do something, we're fulfilling a need. If I'm standing here and talking to you, I'm fulfilling a need. You know, Mother Teresa served all those people. She was fulfilling a need that was inside her. It was selfish. I'm selfish. All of us are selfish. We will never do anything if it is not fulfilling a need of ours. We might say, oh, no, we're giving out to people. Yeah, but why are you giving out? Because you feel good. Okay, so that's a need. Because you want to feel good, you're helping other people, right? So there's always a need that we have. So if you don't have a need, you will not. So that's why waking up at 7 o'clock, why do you need to wake up? Is there a need? Is there a requirement? If not, don't wake up at 7 o'clock. What's wrong? Wake up at 10 o'clock. Who cares? But if you have a need, then that is where discipline comes in, that you've got to put yourself to do it. Because you know, it's like dieting, most people want to diet, but they don't, they know, it's very simple to diet, right? Without diet and exercise, you can lose weight. But nobody does it because they don't feel that need strongly enough. All right, so that's enough about what is entrepreneurship. Now, let's go to a little bit of nuts and bolts, right? Let's say you guys are planning to start a business. What's involved in starting a business? Okay, the first thing is you've got to go and register yourself. So there's a government body where you've got to go and register. You have to make a formal announcement and get a number or get a certificate from them and register that you're starting a business. Okay, that's very, very important. That's the first step, is going and registering a business. And then you've got to decide, when you're registering, you've got to decide on a company name. Right, so you, ABC, whatever, right? And then you register that. Now, you also, before you register, obviously you decide what kind of a business. Now, there are many kinds of structures of business, right? One of them is what's called sole trader. So, if you're a plumber or electrician or a carpenter or something like that, you're doing work on your own, you can be a consultant, engineering consultant, and you become a sole trader. So, you're the only person, sole trader, I don't have to explain that, right? You all know English. Sole trader. So you're trading, but just by you. So that's a sole trader. That's a legal entity, where you've got to register that. Then there's another thing called partnerships, where you join together with other people and form a company together. So it can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, any number of people. You form a partnership company. And then you have what is called a proprietary limited company, which is a bigger structure. And in that you have two categories. One is a public and one is a private. So you create this proprietary PTY limited company to do business, to transact business. You cannot transact business without one of these structures. You cannot. You're not allowed to legally. You could go to jail for that. Now, when you create this PTY limited, if you decide to put all the capital by yourself, then it's a private limited company. It's privately held, privately. But if you go out to the share market, yeah, some of you are familiar with shares, right? You go out and people collect money from outside. So I come to the share market and say, yeah, give me every share, I'll give $5. You all collect money. So you become shareholders of the company. That becomes a public limited company. Then I'm answerable to you. I have to give you details of accounts, what's happening, etc., etc. Because you own part of the company. If you're a shareholder, you own part of the company, however small it is. Right? Okay. So you get a number. You get actually 2, 3 numbers, but this is the most critical number. It's called, if you're doing it in Australia, I'm assuming that you're going to do it in Australia, it's Australian Business Number, ABN. But whichever country you're doing it, it doesn't matter. They'll give you some kind of a registration number. It's like a car registration number, bike registration number, dog registration number, anything. Because to identify that business, they give you a number. That's called a business number. That's a unique number, right? Okay. And now, you can have a company name, but you could then have a trading name. So, the company name could be anything. It could be ABC Pty Limited or ABC Partnership or ABC Associates or whatever you call it. But the trading name becomes the name that's visible in the marketplace. So now Toshiba, I don't know what the company is called. Could be ABC Pty Limited for all I know. Doesn't matter. How I know it as is Toshiba. Toshiba is a trading name, which is what is visible in the marketplace. The actual company name is not visible. It does come out on the invoices sometimes. So sometimes when you go, let's say for example, and if you use Skype, yeah, if you use Skype and if you get a billing, if you get an invoice from them, you see that it's called something else. A lot of the software companies on the internet, Action VoIP and some of the others, they've got a different name. Skype will be there, but there'll be a trading name which is different in the invoice. And sometimes when you get your credit card, if you pay by credit card, the statement they'll tell you, look for this name on the credit card. It won't be Skype, it'll be something else, right? You've got to have premises. Where do you operate from? Now it could be a home, but you still have to have some place where you've got to transact business, where you actually either receive people, or you talk on the phone, or you have your computer. So whatever, you have to have a premises. Depending on the business, you've got to have premises. Some place where you're operating the business from. And you've got to have staff if you are growing the business. Staff could be just you, or it could be other people. All right, so this is basically the essentials of starting a business. Any questions? No. What do you need to start a business? So that was the nuts and bolts, the legal requirements. But what else do you need? You need to have a product or a service. I suppose you want to start a business and say, okay, I've got a business now, what am I going to sell? You start a business after you decide on a product or a service. You've got to have a value proposition. Now you might have a product, that's my product. That seems very heavy. I'm taking it away. That's the product. But how does, if I were to sell it to you, how does this help you? So I've got to have a value proposition explaining to her that this wallet contains X number of dollars and all these credit cards and all that, so it will be valuable to you. So you don't have to use your credit card. So that's a value proposition. So you have to have a value proposition of how your product serves your customer. Okay, then you've got to have a hungry market. Now what that means is, you've got this business, you've got the ABN number, you've got a trading name, you've got a premises, you've also got staff, you've also got a product. You've also got a value proposition. But you've got to have somebody to buy it, right? Imagine there's no market. There's no need for that. There's no need. People say, okay, I can do without that. I don't need it. I don't really need it. I'm happy without that. So you've got to have a market. Either you have an existing market or you create a market. It doesn't matter. Sometimes you don't have a market, you create a market. But you've got to have a market to be able to do business. You have to start a business and to do it. Now, the other thing that you can think of is when you start is you want to have a market that's mass market, that's targeted at everybody. So your product and service or your value proposition is targeted at everybody. Is it something that everybody needs it? Or is it only a very niche market, very segmented market, people who need that particular service? Not everybody needs it, only some people need it. Right? So let's say, for example, if you're working on a fitness plan, for example, or a dieting plan, you've got a dieting product. Now, not all of you need the dieting product. You've got to then look at people who are really fat. So that's your market, right? That market only. So you only go and talk to them. You don't talk to people who are slim. You're not going to likely to sell to them because they're not going to buy from you. They don't need to diet. So similarly, you have niches. You have segments of the market, so that will need your product. So you've got to identify that and you've got to have a market. If not, you're going to be in trouble. You can sell it directly or indirectly.